What do you think of when you see that picture?
I tell you, just looking at you guys, most of all, man. By the way, these are both of my centers. I was a power forward. Yeah. So
power. I don't know about power.
Well, I was a scrawny dude. I was about 130 wet. But it brought a lot of memories back, man. Just to really see three people coming from where we come from, where Allred and I come from, where you come from, and to see us now. And I recognize that this was God doing all along before we even knew it.
Yeah.
Before I wasn't saved, before everyone saved, before you was out there doing the things you did, God already had his hands up on us in 1994, 95.
That's awesome.
All the way through middle school, all the way through elementary, and all the way through high school. And I was just on my way, real quick, I was on my way crying, man, because I'm thinking about how God moves and how he does things. His thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. So even when we're out there doing the wrong things, which we were doing, he still had his hands up on us.
Yeah, that's good.
So when I seen that, I wanted to cry, but I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. When you called, I heard about Allred coming, and I'm like, yo, it's on now. And you guys know I'm just hyped, So I'm thankful for this, man.
Yeah, Eric, what do you think? What does that picture bring back to you?
Good and bad. When I think back on my past, too much, it can be a detriment. And for a long time, Satan was really twisting the conviction of my past, and it became condemnation that really held me down for many, many years. Now, on the upside, when I can get myself out of the way and just think about what that pic in and of itself embodies, kind of like Marwin alluded to, the things that we've been through, which are so vast, and they'll hear about here shortly. With full confidence, I can tell you that if somebody would have said to about anybody who knew us at that time, that there's 3 members of that basketball team that's going to end up being in the ministry, I guarantee you, Jeremy Duncan, Marwin Strong, and Eric Allred wouldn't have been the 3 they thought were It's just that simple.
Can you cut his mic, please? Before he gets me in trouble. No, I'm kidding. No, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, I still look at it today and think, wow, God has really done amazing things with me. But please know, I'm so humbled and blessed just to be sitting up here and talking to you guys today. It's truly an honor, and I mean that. Let's jump in a little bit to your stories. And Marwin, I'll give you a chance first to tell your testimony in terms of where you've been, how God came into your life, and where things have gone since then. I know there was a moment in your life when you were at your lowest, and in fact, for all intents and purposes, dead physically. And so tell us that story and bless us with that testimony.
All right, I haven't always been the young man that you're looking at. I just got to be honest. I'm a really uncut guy, and these guys know that. Growing up as a young man, a beautiful mother that I love dearly, raised 8 children by herself. And things we had to go through, lights being cut off, gas, water being cut off, roaches and mice, and not knowing where our next meal was going to come from. Hung around drug dealers, prostitution, murders, you name it, I was there. But I always played basketball. Basketball was always an outlet for me. So when I got on the 4 corners of the court, it was a whole new life for me because I was dealing with so much struggle. And I did not really know I was poor until I got older. Played basketball, continued to play basketball, but I was out there selling drugs, being a product of my environment, hanging, kicking, and having a good time, like young men do. And in 1998, I was about to go play for trial for the Charlotte Hornets. Went to a club. A young man and young ladies, we think we're invincible. We go to the party like nothing happened to you. I goes to a party and some people poisoned me. They put iodine in my drink. My mother found me in the bathroom having grandma's seizures. So I laid in the hospital for 2 years. Had to learn how to walk again and talk again like a newborn baby. They called my family, my mother, my father at that time. He came back. They said, there's nothing that we can do for this young man. He's about to die. With trachs in my neck, peg tubes, 8-10 IVs, and they said, say your last goodbye to this man. But God brought me back. When I came back from death, I understand the dynamics of what I've seen, which I could take a hold of. It's in my book. You would know in my book as you read it. But I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be looking at none of you right now. All you heard from the doctors was bad news. You'd be told unable to walk again. You'd be told unable to talk again. You know, and the greatest thing they said is your mind would not be the same no more. That was a beautiful diagnosis they ever gave me. Because the Bible said once you become saved, you become a brand new creature.
That's good.
Old things pass away, behold, all things become new. So I'm happy for that sickness that they gave me. But it's dynamic, man. We sit here with you guys. After that, spent 2 years in the hospital, ended up going to University of UMass Boston, played basketball. Then I constantly came to preach all over the world, you know, as a motivational speaker. Got an opportunity to meet ex-President Barack Obama. He was the greeter in Muncie, Indiana. And now I'm in Dallas, Texas, working for the Dallas Mavericks as the basketball hoop camp director. So it's just amazing. And basketball coach up in Dallas. And I just can't say it enough, you know, that whatever we go through in life, you know, don't ever think it's over. Because it's not over until God says it's over.
That's good.
Amen.
It's so good, Marwin. Thank you so much. You're gonna make me get emotional. It's just so amazing to hear your testimony. And I know many of you here sitting today are thinking to yourself, I don't have a testimony like that. How can I possibly share what God has put on me? But please know your story is specific to you for a reason, right? Just as Marwin's is specific for him for a reason. And you may be able to touch someone different than Marwin can, and vice versa. So E, I want you to jump in a little bit to your background and your testimony as well. Similar in some ways in regards to God pulling you from the depths of some pretty dark places. Why don't you go ahead and tell us, you know, where God found you, how He found you, where you were before that, and how your life changed after.
Absolutely. I'll consolidate things, but understand there's so many variables and nuances that go into each point that I'll make. But to start with, I was abused as a very young child, both physically and sexually. And these things created a level of distrust and even perversion within myself at an age when I shouldn't have been having sexual thoughts or otherwise, or thoughts of extreme violence. Well, as I grew older, I actually went to a school that was a Christian school and it doubled as my home church. And this particular ministry force-fed us a lot of polluted doctrine. They used a lot of scare tactics to keep people in the pews. And I remember I was about 7 years old and they took us up from Sunday school to watch this movie called Image of the Beast. And it was very man-made in regards to prophetic doctrine, and it was scary. And so these things not only began giving me a twisted perception of humanity, but also a twisted perception of who God was, you know. So as I began growing a little bit older, violence began becoming a part of my life. I was removed from that church school, entered the public school system, primarily because of athletics, which ended up being one of the best things spiritually for me. that my dad ever did. I always had an out through athletics as my lifestyle became much, much worse with every passing year. Basketball and especially baseball. Well, to shorten things a little bit from that dynamic, I ended up not only getting kicked off of darn near every sports team that I was on in high school, both basketball and baseball, but I squandered 3 full-ride collegiate scholarships for baseball and 2 major league contracts, one with the Minnesota Twins, one with the Kansas City Royals, all because of, number one, alcoholism that had began to take root in my life, and also because of violence. I was very short-tempered, and it went from defending myself as a youngster to looking for opportunities to execute a certain level of physicality on someone. There was almost a form of therapeutic dynamic behind it. At the time, I didn't understand it. Well, once athletics were no longer a reality for me, I felt like the only thing I had left was to be back out on the streets. So I ended up going to prison multiple times, and things kind of culminated for me on October 13th, 2014, when I was shot 5 times. And I never forget, the bullets traveled up my body. The first one hit me in my leg, shattered my tibia, my right tibia. The next bullet hit me in my left quad and I buckled. The third bullet hit me in the stomach, and at that moment I knew that it's checkout time. I'm dying tonight. Well, I remember hearing the 4th gunshot, but I don't remember feeling the 4th bullet. I just, at that moment, rolled over and began to pray. Unknowingly, these men walked up over me and shot me one more time. So as I began praying, in the worst physical pain you can imagine, an individual's face appeared to me. And I know sitting here today that I was looking into the face of our Savior. I don't know how I knew that, but in that moment I knew that this is who I needed to be speaking with. He never said a word to me, and he didn't have to. Because the one thing that I remember, really 2 things that I remember about the individual I was looking at is, number 1, it was not a white man. And number 2 was the look in his eyes. They were filled with an insurmountable level of love, but also an incredible amount of hurt. So the physical pain that I was in that had left me was replaced by the most gut-wrenching feeling of sorrow and inner shame that you could ever fathom in life. A level of disappointment with self that really manifested itself into a physical pain all of its own. And while many would think that that was probably the catalyst that created a 360 dynamic to my lifestyle, unfortunately it wasn't. My pride was so strong that it still took me nearly 3 years after that situation for me to finally become grounded, to sober up mentally, physically, and especially spiritually, and heed the calling that God had on my life. And so then I entered the ministry about 12 years ago, and the rest had been history. Up till last March, everything was seemingly going well. The ministry was going well. Our family had just moved to a house that we were very proud of, and I began noticing some muscle twitching in my calves. So as I was working out with my son, who's a very elite wrestler, I noticed that as I'm lifting the weights, my strength is a fraction of what it once was. Well, long story short, those things continued to worsen. The muscle twitching worsened. My speech became affected. It was getting hard for me to walk. In October last year, I was diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a neurodegenerative muscular disorder that is terminal in nature. It not only paralyzes you, but it removes your ability to speak as well as your ability to breathe. Currently, my lung capacity is at 40%. I have a procedure early next week where they're going to place a feeding tube in me. And this comes with some risk, because there is a chance that if there is any breathing issues during that procedure, that I could have to be intubated and immediately be put on a tray. So I don't believe that that's God's plan for me right now. I'm going to hang on to the fact that not only is that procedure going to go well, but his answer thus far hasn't been no. It's just been not yet in regards to my full restoration. But at the same time, if all of you would, keep me in your prayers regarding that upcoming procedure.
Let's take a second, just give God praise for his work in their lives. If you would, please just. I don't know about you, but those testimonies just hit hard. To see the God's work in their life, and both men who admittedly went through challenges, difficulties, tough times in their lives. Eric, I don't know if you remember this. There was a time when I was a young, impressionable little dude. I'll be honest, when I first came, I went to Mitchell Elementary School. Mitchell Elementary School was a predominantly white school. And so when I came to Northside Middle School, it was a huge culture shock for me. I was like, what in the world's going on, right? Like, I just didn't know any different. And then I got to high school. And there was one night where I went to a high school football game, and I don't know if you remember this or not. You might, you may not. Where I was supposed to fight somebody after the game. Do you remember this?
It's starting to come.
Hey, I'm with you when you're right. Carry on.
So I don't want to tell myself here. What am I telling these stories for?
Go, carry on.
But I was supposed to fight somebody. I don't even know how it came to be. I wasn't a fighter. I wasn't. I just wasn't.
At all.
No, I wasn't. You know that? Like, I wasn't.
We got your back.
But Eric came up to me in the stands, and I'm not kidding you. You opened your coat and you said, Jeremy, I have your back, and you had a gun in your pocket. That's where Eric's come from. Like he was ready to go at that moment. And God intervened in that moment in time, because who knows where that would have led, right? And administration found out what was going on, and it just didn't happen. But in that moment, that's just a picture of where we've been and the kind of life that was. So yeah, let's jump here a little bit to the world today. I know we have a lot going on, right? And so racial tension, lots of stuff happening in the world today. And I think it's our obligation as a church to talk about this. You know, Jesus wasn't afraid to tackle hard subjects, right? In fact, so much so that it got him put to death. And so I think sometimes we as a church, we often find ourselves in a position of either not talking because we're afraid we're going to say the wrong thing, right? Or in a position where we feel like if we just take a neutral ground, no one will notice. And I'm here to tell you today, and I've said this to you a few weeks in a row now, that our words have power. And we as a church, we as people of God, our stance on things such as injustice, which is what the Bible's all about, is injustices of the world, right? And Jesus standing against those, and people of God standing against those, that our position on these things is so very important. And so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that. I want to give you the opportunity to weigh in and to kind of tell me what you're thinking. And so I'm just going to lead with this question. It's a very open-ended question, very umbrella, in regards to what's happening in the world today and how you see that, how you view that. Marwin, do you want to start?
Well, first of all, I want to tell all you guys I love y'all with agape love of Jesus Christ. It's kind of odd for a black man to say that, right? You know, to another culture. But more than anything, I have a lot of experience with prejudice in my life. Growing up in Muncie in their homes. I'm going to tell you a quick story. It won't be long. It was myself as a little kid, me and a couple guys who was out playing basketball. So some Caucasian guys come up and said, hey, let's play basketball. Georgetown, which is predominantly black school, against IU, which IU is predominantly white school. And we were like, bet, let's go. You know, and we beat them. I mean, we beat them like 15, 16-0. It was terrible. You know? They said, well, let's play again. We were like, okay. You know, so beat them again, 16-2. Well, let's play again. I said, well, you know, y'all want some more? Let's go. So what happened when they started throwing rocks at us? They said, niggers, you better go home or we're gonna kill you. So I have a brother, which I love dearly. My brother, he was very protective of me. He didn't play no games. I'm like, hey, just please don't tell my brother this. We was in 7th grade and these guys was acting like 10th and 11th grade. They was football players. Well, they went and told my brother. So my brother goes up and beat them all up. I mean, you know, he said, hey, don't mess with my little brother. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So after that, the police came. The police came and they didn't come talk to us. They went right to the Caucasian. And they said, hey, what's going on? I was like, hey, like, no, we don't want to listen to you. So they said, hey, if you come around this town, if you come around this area again, we're going to lock you up and we're going to lynch you. And I asked this one question, I never forget me saying, I said, why do you hate us? And I asked him again, I said, why do you hate us? And he never said one word and walked away. That's the problem as a culture that we have. We all got 2 lungs. We got 2 kidneys. We got 1 heart. We got a liver. The same veins you have, I have. You get cut, same blood. But the problem with society is the color of our skin. And prejudice you don't be born with it. You taught it at home. You taught it. Around your tables, around place you at, and your parents, father, your mother, your uncle, your grandma, your great-grandma, they are the one instilling inside of them. And say, don't hang with that guy because he's bad. No, listen. As an African American, I would say, we're the most loving people, forgiving people you've ever met in your life. And all it comes from is this.
Yeah, that's good. And I love what you said there about the fact that I don't want to say we're all the same. I'm careful about that because the reality is that I believe God sees color because God created us all individually in the way that we are for a reason. I believe that. But at the same time, God created us all in His image, right? And so for us to say that one of us are better than another is essentially saying that God messed up or God didn't do the right thing or what have you. And that's my struggle, right? Marwin, I don't see you any different than anyone else. You're my brother, right?
Amen.
And I love you. And just as much as he says he loves you, I love you as well.
I love you too.
And know that. You know that. You want to talk about that a little bit as far as how God has created us all in that way?
Yeah, my opinion on that matter, and I feel like there is biblical proof to validate, is we know or can safely assume that Adam and Eve was not of different ethnicity. They were one of the first 2 original Hebrew people. So whatever shade of skin color Adam and Eve was, in turn, that is where we are descended from. You know, the book of Acts tells us that regardless of current race or ethnicity, we are all one blood. We also need to understand that the first racist was Satan because he hated the human race. You know, when we look at what happened at the Tower of Babel, when mankind and his ingenuity tried to rise to the heavens and crave the power of Yahweh God, you know, God confused their language and they were to be dispersed throughout the world. Some settled near the equator, some settled in higher altitudes. And interestingly enough, science backs the Bible up that where those individuals settled and began establishing a livelihood had a direct impact on the pigmentation of their skin, the type of melanin in their body. And so I personally believe that the different shades to our skin is intentional, because if we can't love someone else, if we can't love our neighbor with the type of unconditional love that Christ has for us, regardless of how they look, then we can't call ourselves a Christian. And as a white man, how can we express any type of racism and at the same time call ourselves a Christian when we are Gentiles to believe with, to begin with?
Sometimes we gotta understand that we're comfortable in our own places. We're comfortable where our own neighborhoods. You know your neighbors. You know who's down the street from you. You know what their cousin did the other night. You know, even a small community or a big community. You know your neighborhood. But what about going with the uncomfortable? What about going to a place you normally would never go? What about going down there to the street corner, to the taverns? You know, because the Bible specifically said to us, go to the hedges, highways, and the byways and compel men. That's what it says. So what about going places that you never ever been? What about going to the jailhouse, to the prisons? What about going to clothe people that you never imagined seeing? That's true ministry. And when they see you, not of your race, not of your color, when they see you of this, because God is what? God is love. Love have no color. So the question my African Americans, my brothers and sisters and of my race, they're asking that same question, why don't they love us? Because God is, and love has no color. So that's how you bridge the gap. You go to the uncomfortable. We are comfortable in our own churches. We're comfortable in our own places. We're comfortable with going to this place. Go somewhere you don't know.
Yeah, that's good.
And I can say it because that's who I am.
Yeah.
That's who I was when God raised me out of the hospital, because I told God, my mother's best, I said, God, if you serve me all the days of life, I do anything you want me to do. So I could come up here and read the scripture. I mean, I could bring the church down. I could get folks saved, but the real people that need saved is those that out there that's lost.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's who we need to find.
Yeah, and I love the way you articulate that, Marwin. You know, I think we oftentimes find ourselves in positions where we are comfortable. I mean, I would challenge our church. Like, how many times? When's the last time that you yourself have had a conversation, an honest conversation, a sit-down conversation, a serious conversation with somebody of a different race than yourself? I mean, really think about it. Because the reality is, especially here in the city of Winchester, where it's predominantly white, right? Those opportunities aren't necessarily going to come knocking on your door. You have to find them, right? And you have to seek them. Because understanding and empathy begin when conversation starts, right? Because I can't truly understand what Marwin's been through when he was in that situation on the basketball floor. Like, I can't understand that, but I can sit down and I can listen to you, and I can try my best to get that feeling within my own heart. But I can't have that happen without conversation, right? It's easy for us to get frustrated and say, why are those people doing what they're doing? I can't believe they're tearing down that statue. I can't believe they're rioting in the way that they are. Whatever it happens to be. And I'm not, this is not a political statement. This is not anything else. This is just me simply saying that I don't know what they've been through. And I can never understand it until I get outside my comfort zone and have real conversation with people of a different color, with people of a different race, with people of a different religion, whatever it happens to be, with people of a different, whatever, sexual orientation. I will never understand it until I get on that ground with them. E, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think you make great points. very valid in regards to the fact that we don't know. I mean, even myself, coming up in a primarily black community just outside my neighborhood, you know, I ride my bike 5 minutes every day, and then I'm the only white kid in the neighborhood. You know, but even coming up the way that I did, I don't know what it's like either. I've suffered police brutality, but you know what? I still don't know what it's like to walk into a store, be a successful black man like Marwin, who has overcome so much, an author and otherwise, but yet because he has a do-rag on so he can keep his waves flowing, and he's got a ball cap on his head, that the first thing most individuals think is, oh man, that dude's a thug. And the problem is, most of the time, that individual in there with that do-rag on isn't a thug. So we gotta ask ourselves, how and why have we been conditioned to think this way? So for me personally, I think love is the greatest opportunity for us to build those bridges and the dialogue, as you pointed out, Jeremy. But even an individual like myself, who has had black friends, including Marwin, that would parallel as brothers. You know, I mean, Marwin is, he's like family to me outside of the church. But at the same time, it's still imperative for even myself not to speak, not to tell him how I feel, but to ask him how he feels and listen so we can understand. And for those that have not grown up in the inner city, that has not had the pleasure of being around a very diverse ethnic group, it's even more important for you to get your preconceived notions out of the way and just listen to what's being said.
That's so goody. You know, the media can trick us into feeling as white America, feeling a sense of guilt for being white. Please know that this is not what that's about, right? It's not at all what it's about. Guilt brings shame, conviction brings change, right? So it's understanding and being convicted, not that you yourself have done something to somehow perpetuate this, but understanding that it's there, that it exists. I'm not going to say that silence is violence like we see sometimes, but I think silence sometimes can be that apathetic kind of monster within us that allows things to continue to get worse rather than better. Hear me. And we as a church have a responsibility to be a part of the positive change that we want to see and that we wish to be part of this world. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Let's talk really quickly about what's next. Marwin, I know you've got some exciting things. Check it out. This is a book Marwin has written. Given his story that he told you, his testimony, it's amazing that he's in a position in his life where a book that's going to bless people is part of your story. But let's talk about that just really quick as far as what's next for you.
But I tell you, man, it's the book is the book is like dynamic. You know, as I sit here with tears rolling down my eyes, you know, I'm not really supposed to be here, Jeremy. You know, and I'm saying it with joy because what happened was when being an African American man is hard. Hard is as great as successful I could be, it's hard. And like he said, it's hard when I don't wear suits and I'm out here with a do-rag on for my waves could be banging, you know, because I'm an urban guy. I like to dress nice, I like the Jordans, I like the nice clothes, but they don't see what's inside of me. You know, I never forget, just yesterday I was at Walmart and it was a Caucasian lady, it really hurt my heart. A Caucasian lady, she see me when I walk past, she locked the doors. Just locked. And it hit me like, wow, I'm really a good guy. I would do anything for anybody, but really that she locked him because why? Because she was scared so this is what happened. This is what God is crazy. I love God. So what happened, the same lady that locked the doors, she was so short, I'm 6'3", she wanted this bag of potato chips, and guess who was in the aisle? I was. I didn't say one word. I got the chips down, gave them to her, and said, God bless you. And she just smiled. But the reason I say all this because you have a prejudgment on who we are. She had a prejudgment. Like as soon as I walked past, guess she did? She locked. That's prejudgment. Afterwards, she like, wow, this guy's really not that bad.
That's awesome. E, why don't you talk a little bit? Obviously, from a health perspective, you don't know what's next. But boy, you have a blessing of an amazing family here. I know you mentioned Silas. Silas was just recently named the Indiana State Wrestler of the Year. Am I right when I say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Has a full ride scholarship at the University of Nebraska. I'll take him after church.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Good luck.
But we should talk about what's next, E.
Yeah, well, in regards to the family dynamic, my son Malachi also received a full ride scholarship to go to IU. So that's a blessing in and of itself. My son Tyler continuing to excel in the classroom, as is my daughter Rachel, my youngest Zachariah, and of course Magdalene. It's been a blessing because I see the growth in them every single day. The interesting thing about the whole COVID dynamic is I feel that even though Satan may be creating this pestilence in the world, is God has intentionally put us in a situation where the family dynamic can grow even stronger.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? So moving forward for me in this condition and some of the challenges that I have moving forward, it is simply just to take one day at a time. Thank God for every morning that I wake up, every day that He fills my breath or my lungs with breath. And if for some reason a trach is in my future and I'm unable to speak anymore, that's not going to stop my discipleship. That's not going to stop me doing my work and the work that He has instilled in me, because they have retina-controlled speech devices where I'll be able to sit, type blogs, books, pamphlets. So the bottom line is, I know that God didn't cause this disease. Satan has caused this disease. He don't want people to hear the testimony that God has inside of me. So regardless how hard the enemy works, I'm going to be continuing to do God's work until He calls me home.
I think they deserve a little more than that. Why don't you stand and give them a big compass thank you. We're going to do things a little differently here at the end of the service. I just feel like God is leading me to do this. And so if you feel comfortable, we're not going to lay hands on you because I don't want to put you in a compromising position as far as your health. But are you okay if people come around you on knees, if that's okay?
100%.
You said that's good. So if you feel comfortable with that, coming forward and just taking a knee, I think posture is important in prayer. I do. I think the posture that we take, and that doesn't have to be physical, it can be, right? It can just be the posture that we take, the humility that we walk into prayer with. We step into the throne room with a certain level of humility, right? And so our posture can show that. And so if you feel comfortable, some of you leaders within our church to come forward and just take a posture of prayer around Eric and surround him in that way, and Marwin both, as we worship this last song, I would be tremendously appreciative. But I want to worship. If you don't feel comfortable coming forward, that's fine. But please do me this. I want you to be in prayer during this song of worship as we worship our Father. Be in a place of prayer for both these amazing people. That their testimonies would continue to touch lives. That their story would continue to roll and touch more and more people. We're recording the service today not because of anything as far as personal praise. It's so that people can hear it. Right? You were present today. You got to hear the testimony. Right? And we don't know how long these guys will get to keep telling their testimony. Like Eric said, man, he's going to keep doing it regardless. He's going to type it. He's going to do whatever he has to do. But boy, I truly believe that today's service will touch people in ways that I never could. And so, like I said, as we worship, come on up, worship team. As we worship, if you feel comfortable, come on forward. We're just going to kind of take a posture of prayer around Eric as we worship and praise our Father.
What can wash away my sins? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can
Thankful for two amazing men who were willing to share their testimonies. And we're so thankful today that you stepped into their lives in the moment of despair, in the moment of their lowest point, Father. You stepped in and you shook them and you said, come back to me. And both of them obediently said, yes, yes, yes. And Father, we're so thankful that they obediently step into the role of disciple maker. They step into the role of pastor. They step into the role of whatever it happens to be, Father, to make a difference in the kingdom. And I pray a blessing over them today, that you would continue to allow them to do their thing, that they would continue to be able to speak their words and to speak your truth. They would continue to have a platform to make a difference in this world, that you would bless them abundantly, that you would anoint them in ways like never seen before, that their words would bring power and authority to this world. That as we talk about racial injustice and things within our world that create division, Father, they would be bridge builders every day of their life. And everyone in this room, everyone in this congregation, every day of their lives, building bridges, finding understanding, right? Sitting down and having conversation with people and getting real and saying, hey, I need to understand where you've been and why you feel the way you feel. Empathy begins there, yes. Right? Understanding begins there, right? Bridge building begins there. We can sit back and we can say it's not my issue, or it's too big an issue, or I'm not part of this. But Father, give us the courage and the know-how and the understanding to step into the gap and be part of the solution, not the problem. Father, we as a church have an obligation, you know that, to be part of the solution. Allow us to do that with courage, with your words, and with a heart of love and reconciliation every day. Father, I'm thankful for those who showed up today. I'm thankful for those who will be touched by the message online. And ultimately, I'm thankful for the two gentlemen who were up here and their families who have given their time this morning to bless us. And I hope we've been a blessing to them as well. Father, I'm just so thankful today. Man, what an amazing time to spend this morning in your presence. In your presence. We thank you. We praise you. Let's go ahead and pray the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples. Our Father, who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
And all God's people said,
Amen.
Amen. Hey, thank you so much for joining us this morning. God bless you. Please feel free to give these guys I love you, a prayer of blessing as you leave today.